I kicked it open so hard it slammed against the wall. Rachel shot up in bed, eyes wide, sheets slipping down her bare shoulders. The bastard standing by the window nearly dropped his belt, scrambling to pull up his pants. Good. He should be afraid. The room stank, sweat, cheap perfume, betrayal. My stomach turned. This was our anniversary. Our ing anniversary. Rachel didn't scream, didn't even flinch. Instead, she sighed, rolled her damn eyes, like I was inconveniencing her. Blood roared in my ears. My fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. But I didn't yell, didn't break anything. I just stepped inside, slow, controlled, like a loaded gun with the safety off. Then I grinned, a sharp, humorless thing that made her swallow hard. "Surprise, babe," I said, kicking the door shut behind me. "Miss me?" I stood there, letting the moment stretch, letting the silence burn. Rachel clutched the sheets tighter, her knuckles white. The man beside her, mid-30s, gym-built, a face that probably got him whatever he wanted, just smirked and kept buttoning his pants like this was no big deal. "You gonna stand there all night, or you wanna talk?" he muttered. I tilted my head, taking a slow step forward. "I don't remember asking you a damn thing." That wiped the smirk off his face. Rachel finally spoke. "Jason, please." "Please what?" My voice was calm. Too calm. "Please pretend I didn't just walk in on you playing house with some guy in a Marriott?" Her mouth opened, closed. She glanced at him, then back at me, calculating. She was stalling. I let out a sharp breath and shook my head. "You know what's funny, Rachel? I wasn't even looking for this. I wasn't playing detective. I was just trying to call my wife." And then, I gestured vaguely at the room. "This. Jason, I can explain." I laughed. "I'd love to hear it." Her lips parted, her mind scrambling for something. Anything. That would make this less than what it was. And that's when the first lie dropped. "It's not what it looks like." I blinked. "Not what it looks like. Not what it looks like. You're in a hotel bed, with another man, half naked. And you're telling me it's not what it looks like." She sat up, the sheets shifting. It's complicated." "Oh, good." I crossed my arms. I was worried this would be simple. Her voice dropped into that soft, manipulative tone she used when she wanted me to calm down. "Jason, just let me talk. Okay?" "No," I snapped, the first crack in my composure. "You don't get to talk yet." Her mouth snapped shut. I turned to the guy. "You. What's your name?" He smirked again, but there was hesitation now. "Why does it matter?" "Because I want to know the name of the guy who just ed my wife." Rachel gasped. "Jason." "Oh, I'm sorry," I said, sarcasm dripping. "Should I have said, the guy who accidentally tripped and fell onto you? Is that the, it's not what it looks like version we're going with?" The guy's smirk faded. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married." I turned back to Rachel. "Is that true?" Her hesitation was microscopic. "Yes." Lie number 2. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay in control. "All right." I nodded. "Let's test that theory." I pulled out my phone, scrolled, turned the screen toward him. "This you." On the screen was his Instagram, his username, his face, and Rachel in the likes, in the comments under every post with little fire emojis and smiling face with hard eyes reactions. His Adam's apple bobbed. I turned to Rachel. "You want to tell me how you knew how to spell his last name when you didn't even know him?" Her face drained of color. And that was when I knew. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some drunken, one-night disaster. This was a pattern. I took a step back, running a hand through my hair, trying to control the storm inside me. "How long?" Rachel fidgeted. "Jason, let's not." "How long?" She swallowed hard. "A few months." I laughed again. This time it actually hurt. "A few months." I repeated it like I was tasting the words. "Wow, that's impressive. You must have been so busy. Between being my wife and being his." "Stop!" she snapped, finally angry. Oh, so now she had emotions? You think this is easy for me? She hissed, wrapping the sheets around her like she was the victim. You think I wanted this to happen? You mean the affair you chose to have? The one you lied about for months? Yeah, Rachel. I think you wanted this to happen. Her expression twisted, and for the first time I saw it, the part of her she'd been hiding. She wasn't sorry. She was just caught. I nodded, more to myself than to her. Okay, I see how it is. I turned, walking toward the door. Jason, wait. She scrambled off the bed. I paused. She took a breath, like she was about to say something meaningful, something real. But then she said, let's just go home and talk about this. And that was the moment I knew. She thought I was an idiot. I stared at her for a long time. Then finally I smiled. Rachel, I said, voice quiet, you don't have a home to go back to. And then I walked out. The cold night air hit me as I stepped out of the hotel, but I barely felt it. My mind was on fire, running through every single moment that had led me here. The late-night phone calls, the sudden interest in going to the gym, the way Rachel had started dressing up just to grab coffee with the girls. It was all so obvious now, but I had been too blind to see it. Or maybe I just hadn't wanted to. I walked toward my car, gripping the keys so tight my knuckles turned white. The urge to turn back, to storm into that room and break something, him, the bed, her, was almost unbearable. But what would that change? Nothing. Rachel had already made her choice. I wasn't going to beg for answers she wasn't willing to give. I got in the car, slamming the door shut. My hands shook as I started the engine, but before I could drive off, my phone buzzed. Rachel. I stared at the screen, watching her name flash over and over. For a second, I thought about answering, about letting her talk, hearing whatever excuse she was about to spin. But then I remembered the way she had looked at me in that hotel room. Not guilty, not heartbroken, just annoyed that I caught her. I rejected the call. Seconds later, a text popped up. Jason, please don't do anything stupid. Let's talk. I let out a humorless laugh. Don't do anything stupid? She was the one who had been sneaking around, screwing some guy in a hotel while I sat at home like an idiot, thinking my marriage was fine. And now she wanted to talk? I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and sped off, barely registering where I was going. My hands gripped the wheel, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. The anger inside me was suffocating. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the lying. The fact that she had looked me in the eyes, night after night, and pretended everything was normal, like I didn't deserve the truth. Before I knew it, I was parked outside my best friend's house. Nick. He had always told me something was off about Rachel, but I had ignored him, convinced that he was just being overprotective. Now I wished I had listened. I banged on his door, and a few seconds later, he answered, bleary-eyed and confused. Jason? Man, what the hell? It's past midnight. I pushed past him into the house. She cheated. Nick rubbed his face, still half asleep. What? Rachel. She's been screwing some guy at the Marriott for months. I caught her. I said it so fast I barely processed the words myself. Saying them out loud made it all too real. Nick exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. F********. I don't even know what to say, man. Don't say anything. I collapsed onto his couch, rubbing my temples. Just pour me a drink. A minute later, Nick handed me a glass of whiskey and sat across from me. What happened? I told him everything, from the moment I checked Rachel's location to the second I walked out of that hotel. He listened, shaking his head, cursing under his breath. You know what the worst part is? I muttered, staring at the amber liquid in my glass. She wasn't even sorry. She looked at me like I was the problem, like I was the idiot for believing in her. Nick leaned forward. So what's the plan? Are you divorcing her? The question hit me like a brick. Divorce. The word felt too big, too final. We had a house together, a life, years of memories. Could I just walk away from all of it? I don't know, I admitted. But I do know one thing. I'm not going back to that house tonight. Nick nodded. You can crash here as long as you need to. But Jason, he hesitated. You're not thinking about giving her another chance, are you? I scoffed. After what I saw tonight. No ng way. But even as I said it, a small, nagging voice in the back of my mind whispered, Are you sure? Because if Rachel had one skill, it was lying. And I knew she wasn't done yet. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing on Nick's coffee table. For a second, I forgot where I was. The couch, the whiskey bottle on the floor, the pounding headache. It all came rushing back in a wave of anger and exhaustion. Rachel, the hotel, the other guy. I grabbed my phone and glanced at the screen. 17 missed calls. A flood of texts, all from her. Jason, please talk to me. I can explain. Don't do anything drastic, okay? It was a mistake. Call me. Mistake. That word made me laugh. But there was nothing funny about it. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is sending a text to the wrong person. You don't accidentally keep seeing the same guy for months. Nick walked in, scratching his head. She's still blowing up your phone? I tossed it onto the couch. She won't shut up. Probably realized she's about to lose everything. Nick sat across from me, his expression unreadable. So what's your next move? I exhaled, leaning forward. I go home. I get my stuff. And I make sure she knows we're done. Want me to come with? I thought about it. It would be easier with backup, someone to stop me from saying or doing something I'd regret. But no, this was between me and Rachel. I got this, I muttered, standing up. It's time to end this. The drive back felt surreal, like I was heading toward the wreckage of a crash I'd already seen happen. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was there. I clenched my jaw. She was waiting. The moment I stepped inside, Rachel rushed toward me, wearing an oversized sweater and no makeup, her classic, I'm the victim here, look. Jason, please. She started, voice soft, like she thought she could calm me down with just the right tone. Just let me explain. I dropped my keys on the counter. Explain what? How you've been screwing some guy behind my back. She winced, her eyes darting to the floor. It wasn't like that. I let out a bitter laugh. Really? Because it looked exactly like that. She took a shaky breath. It just happened, okay? I wasn't looking for it. I clenched my fists. Oh, that's rich. It just happened? Rachel, you don't accidentally meet up with a guy in a hotel over and over again. Her eyes flickered with something. Guilt? No. Annoyance. The same look she had in that hotel room. You weren't supposed to find out like this, she muttered. My blood turned to ice. Oh? And how was I supposed to find out? Rachel? Were you going to leave me a cute little note? Or were you just never going to tell me? She rubbed her temples, frustrated. You don't get it, Jason. I was unhappy. I felt like we weren't connecting anymore. I stared at her, stunned. So instead of talking to me, you went and spread your legs for someone else? Her face twisted in anger. Don't talk to me like that. I took a step closer, voice lowering. I'll talk to you however the hell I want. Because while I was out there thinking we had a marriage, you were making me a joke. She crossed her arms. You were never home, Jason. Always working late, always distracted. I felt invisible. I scoffed. Oh, that's good. Blame me. Like I was supposed to read your mind and magically know you wanted more attention. Her eyes flashed. Maybe if you actually cared, you would have noticed. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. Wow, you really have no shame, do you? She bit her lip, hesitating. And that's when I saw it, the gears turning in her head. She wasn't just arguing. She was planning. I folded my arms. Go ahead, Rachel. Tell me the next lie. She hesitated for only a second before speaking. It's over between me and him. I burst out laughing. Oh, that's hilarious. You expect me to believe that? She nodded, putting on her most innocent face. I told him it was a mistake. That I love you. I tilted my head. Ha, that's funny. Because he texted me this morning. Her eyes widened. What? I pulled out my phone and opened the message. Yeah, your little side piece thought it was hilarious that I walked in on you too. He even thanked me for finally catching on. so you wouldn't have to keep sneaking around. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I shook my head, disgusted. You see, Rachel, the problem with liars? They never know when to stop lying. Her mask cracked. Jason, please. No. I stepped back. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. Her eyes filled with panic. Wait. Let's just. I held up a hand. I'll be back for my stuff. After that, I never want to see you again. And for the first time that night, she looked scared. I didn't look back. Not when she called my name. Not when she started crying. Not when she dropped to the floor like some tragic heroine in a movie, clutching her chest like I had just stabbed her. I walked out and slammed the door behind me. The second I got into my car, my hands started shaking. The rage was still there, boiling under my skin. But now something else had crept in. Exhaustion. Pure, bone-deep exhaustion. I stared at the steering wheel, breathing heavily. This was it. This was the moment I had always feared. The moment I had convinced myself would never happen. I had just walked away from my marriage. From her. But had I really? Because as I sat there, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me together, I knew one thing for sure. Rachel wasn't done. I was halfway to Nick's place when my phone rang again. I ignored it. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I glanced at the screen. Unknown caller. I frowned. I wasn't in the mood for spam calls, but something in my gut told me to answer. I hit the button and held the phone to my ear. Yeah. A man's voice, low and smug. You really thought she was going to tell you the truth? I nearly swerved off the road. My heart slammed against my ribs as I gripped the phone tighter. Who the hell is this? A dark chuckle. Come on, man. You know who this is. My grip tightened. Ryan. Got it in one, he said, voice dripping with amusement. Look, I just wanted to call and clear the air. You know, man to man. I clenched my jaw. I don't have sh*t to say to you. That's fair, he said easily. But I figured you might want to hear the truth. Since Rachel, she's not exactly an honest woman. I hesitated. My whole body was screaming at me to hang up, but something in his voice, the confidence, made me pause. Talk. I bit out. See, here's the thing, Ryan said, and I could hear the grin in his voice. She didn't stop seeing me, Jason. She just got better at hiding it. My blood ran cold. That whole speech she gave you, about how it was a mistake and she ended it? Yeah, that was for show. He chuckled. She was with me 2 nights ago, telling me she was gonna leave you. Said she was just waiting for the right time. My breath hitched. You're lying. Am I? He said smoothly. Check her phone. Go ahead. You'll see for yourself. I gritted my teeth. I don't have her phone. A pause. Then, well, that's a shame. Because if you did, you'd see the text she sent me after you left. Crying about how she can't lose me. How she's gonna fix this. How she needs more time. I swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this? Because, he said, and for the first time his voice lost that cocky edge. Rachel? She's not worth it, man. She plays the victim, makes you feel like the bad guy, then turns around and does the same sh*t again. And again. And again. I was silent. Look, I don't give a damn about you, Ryan continued, but I've seen how she operates, and I figured if I were in your shoes, I'd want to know. Then he hung up. I stared at the phone, my pulse hammering. More time. That lying, manipulative. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, letting out a guttural yell. My entire body was on fire, my chest tight, my vision blurred with rage. She had still been playing me. Even after getting caught, even after I walked out, she had still been trying to keep both of us wrapped around her finger. No, not anymore. I turned the car around. By the time I reached the house, I was shaking with fury. I stormed inside, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. Rachel was sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands. The second she saw me, she stood up, eyes wide and teary. Jason. I held up a hand. Shut. The F***. Up. She flinched. I stepped closer, voice low and venomous. You want to explain why you were texting Ryan after I left? Her face went pale. What? You heard me. I took another step, towering over her. You told me it was over, that you regretted it. But the second I walked out, you were begging him not to leave you. She opened and closed her mouth, scrambling for words. I just, don't. I snapped. Just don't. I talked to him, Rachel. I know everything. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't falling for it this time. You are the most disgusting, pathetic excuse for a wife I have ever seen. I spat. You don't love me. You don't love him. You just love the attention. She shook her head frantically. That's not true. I love you, Jason. I laughed. It was sharp, bitter, humorless. You don't even know what love is. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me. Her face crumpled. Please, we can work through this. Are you Angie kidding me? I snapped. After everything you've done, you actually think I'd take you back? She sobbed. I made a mistake. No? I roared, slamming my hand against the wall. A mistake is one time. You made a choice. Over and over. Again. Silence. She stared at me, tears streaming down her face, but I felt nothing. I turned away. I'll be back in the morning to get my stuff. Don't be here when I do. And then, without another word, I walked out of her life for good. The moment I walked out of that hotel room, I knew one thing. This wasn't over. Rachel might have thought she could play me, manipulate me, twist reality to make herself the victim, but she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She had underestimated me. I spent the night at Nick's place, but I barely slept. My mind was racing, replaying everything over and over. The way she looked at me like I was the problem. The smug bastard in the hotel room who didn't even bother to look scared. The fact that she had been texting Ryan while begging me to stay. By morning, something inside me had settled. Cold, focused, unforgiving. Rachel wanted to play games? Fine, let's play. I arrived at the house just after 9 a.m. Rachel was still there. I expected that. She probably thought she could convince me to come back. Spin some sob story about how she was confused or lost. Maybe even try to turn it around on me. Not this time. She was sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in her hands, looking tired. When she saw me, she perked up, her eyes widening with fake relief. Jason, she breathed, standing up quickly. I was so worried. You didn't answer my calls. I didn't know where you went. I held up a hand. Save it. Her mouth snapped shut. I walked past her, straight into the bedroom, grabbing a duffel bag and shoving my clothes into it. I didn't need everything, just enough to get the hell out. I'd send movers for the rest. Rachel followed me, standing at the doorway, wringing her hands. Jason, please, just talk to me. I didn't look up. We talked last night. No, you yelled. She snapped, suddenly shifting into anger. You stormed in like some psychopath, didn't let me explain, and then ran off like a damn coward. I laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. A coward? That's rich, coming from you. Her face turned red. You're not even giving me a chance. You just decided I'm the villain and now you're running away. I dropped my bag, turned to face her. All right, Rachel. You want a chance? Go ahead. Explain. Explain why. After swearing on everything that it was over, you were still sneaking around with Ryan. She flinched, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. I just, don't and lie to me. I growled, stepping closer. I talked to him, Rachel. He told me everything. Her eyes widened, and for the first time I saw real fear. Not because she was sorry, not because she regretted it, but because she knew she was caught. She swallowed. I was going to tell you. When? I cut her off. After our divorce? On my deathbed? When exactly was this confession supposed to happen? She crossed her arms, the guilt vanishing in an instant. You know what? You're not perfect either, Jason. I stared at her, stunned. Are you serious? You're always working, always stressed, And you haven't exactly been the best husband lately, she said, voice rising. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me. I snapped. Do not, I roared, slamming my hand against the dresser, making her jump. Do not blame me for your *T. I have worked my ass off to give you a good life. And this is how you repay me. She huffed, rolling her eyes. Oh please, Jason, don't act like some martyr. You weren't even home half the time. What was I supposed to do? Just sit around and wait for you? I let out a slow, humorless chuckle. Right? So your solution was to spread your legs for Ryan. She gasped. Don't talk to me like that. I stepped even closer, my voice deadly quiet. I will talk to you however the I want. You lost the right to play the victim the second you started screwing around. For the first time, Rachel had nothing to say. I grabbed my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and pushed past her. She followed me to the door, her voice frantic. Jason, wait. Can't we just? I turned so fast she nearly crashed into me. No, Rachel. We can't. She was breathing heavily now, eyes shining with something desperate. You don't mean that. You love me. I laughed in her face. I did. And you killed it. Her expression cracked. For a split second, I saw real panic. Good. Let her feel it. I pulled open the front door, stepping out onto the porch. Oh, and by the way, I added, glancing over my shoulder, you might want to check your bank account. Her face twisted in confusion. What? I smirked. I drained it. Her jaw dropped. You did what? I shrugged. Joint account. My name's on it too. You son of a... I slammed the door before she could finish. The second I got into my car, my hands started shaking again. But this time it wasn't from anger. It was from relief. It was over. Really over. But I wasn't done yet. Because if Rachel thought she was walking away from this clean, she was dead wrong. I sat in my car, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Rachel's muffled screaming echoed from inside the house. But I didn't care. Let her rage. Let her throw a fit. She deserved worse. I had thought leaving would bring me peace, but I still felt that tight knot in my chest. This wasn't over. Not until I burned everything she cared about to the ground. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Nick, you still got that lawyer's number? Damn right I do, he said. You ready to make her pay? A slow grin spread across my face. More than ready. By noon, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, going over every possible way to bury Rachel. I wanted nothing left in her hands. Not the house, not the car, not even a damn coffee mug. You have a strong case for infidelity, the lawyer, Tom, said, flipping through the paperwork. Especially with proof. I slid my phone across the table. Screenshots, call logs, a photo of her tangled up with Ryan in that hotel room, courtesy of the security cameras I had requested that morning. Tom's brows lifted. You came prepared. I'm not leaving a single crack for her to slip through, I said coldly. I want her destroyed. He nodded. I'll file immediately. She won't see this coming. That night I drove back to the house. Not to see Rachel. Not to argue. I had unfinished business. I parked down the street and killed the engine. From here, I had a clear view of the living room window. Rachel was pacing inside, phone to her ear. I could imagine the conversation. Begging Ryan to help, trying to salvage what little she had left. Pathetic. A shadow moved on the porch. A man. Ryan. I clenched my jaw. So the coward finally decided to show up. I stepped out of the car, walking straight toward the house. Ryan barely had time to knock before I was behind him. Hey, hole, I said. He turned just as my fist slammed into his jaw. He stumbled back, crashing against the door. Rachel yanked it open, eyes wide. Jason, stop. Ryan groaned, holding his face. What the hell is wrong with you? I grabbed him by the collar, yanking him close. You're sleeping with a married woman and asking me what's wrong? Rachel shoved between us, pushing me back. Stop acting crazy. I stepped away, shaking out my hand. Oh, I'm not crazy. I'm just done. Ryan, still rubbing his jaw, glared. You know what? She's better off without you. I laughed. That's cute. Let's see if you still think that once I'm done. Rachel frowned. What are you talking about? I pulled out a folder and tossed it at her feet. Divorce papers. And guess what? You're getting nothing. Her face drained of color. You can't do this. Already did. She flipped through the papers, her hands shaking. You can't take everything from me. Actually, I can. I turned to Ryan. Hope you've got a big wallet, buddy. She's gonna need a new place to live. Rachel's mouth opened, then shut. Panic flickered in her eyes. Ryan took a step back. Wait. You're losing the house? She spun toward him. I thought we could move in together. He laughed. Oh, hell no. I didn't sign up for that. Her face crumpled. But you said you loved me. Ryan scratched his head. Yeah, but in the moment. I let out a low chuckle. Wow. You threw away everything for this guy. Rachel snapped. I made a mistake. Okay? But you're punishing me like I'm some criminal. I stepped forward, lowering my voice. You are. You lied. You cheated. And now you're losing everything. That's called karma, sweetheart. She broke. Right there on the doorstep. She screamed in frustration, shoving Ryan's arm. You're supposed to be on my side. Ryan scoffed, shaking his head. This is too much drama. I'm out. Rachel's face twisted in horror. Ryan, wait. He left, just walked off like she meant nothing. I turned to her one last time. Enjoy your new life. Rachel, that I hope we never meet again. And then I walked away, leaving her standing in the doorway, completely alone. Rachel's scream followed me down the driveway, but I didn't turn around. I didn't slow down. I was done. As I slid into my car, I glanced in the rearview mirror. She was still on the porch, fists clenched, shoulders shaking. Probably debating whether to chase after Ryan or try to guilt-trip me one last time. Pathetic. I started the engine, my hands steady, my breathing even. For the first time in months, I felt like I was finally in control. But this wasn't enough. Not yet. Rachel deserved to feel everything, the humiliation, the loss, the absolute collapse of the life she thought she had. And I was going to make sure of it. The next morning, I walked into work feeling like a new man. My coworkers were staring, whispering, probably expecting me to show up looking broken. Instead, I strolled in with a coffee in one hand and the most satisfied smirk on my face. Nick was already at my desk, waiting. So, he asked, raising an eyebrow. I dropped into my chair and leaned back. She lost it. Ryan bailed. It was beautiful. Nick grinned. Damn. Wish I could have seen it. I chuckled. Oh, don't worry. She's got more coming. He tilted his head. Like what? I sipped my coffee, letting the moment stretch. Let's just say Rachel is about to find out that burning bridges works both ways. By noon, the first domino fell. Rachel called me 10 times before I finally answered. What? Her voice was frantic. You son of a bitch. You got me fired. I grinned. Oh? That happened? Damn. Tough luck. She screeched into the phone. You told my boss about the affair. I shrugged. I may have mentioned how your business trips weren't exactly business-related. Turns out companies don't like paying for hotel rooms so their employees can screw around. You ruined me, she shrieked. No, Rachel, I said, voice calm. You ruined yourself. She was breathing heavily now, desperate. Jason, please. You don't have to do this. I leaned back in my chair. Funny. That's what I was thinking when I walked into that hotel room. Silence. Then quietly, I made a mistake. I laughed. Yeah, you did. And then I hung up. That night, I got another call. This time from Ryan. I let it ring a few times before answering. Didn't expect to hear from you. He sighed. Look, man. I just wanted to say I had no idea things were that serious between you two. I smirked. That serious? We were married. He hesitated. Right? I messed up. I chuckled. You sure did. Look, he said, his voice low. Rachel's been blowing up my phone all day. She's pissed, saying I abandoned her. And, I just wanted to check, are you really leaving her with nothing? I raised an eyebrow. Why? You thinking about picking up the pieces? He let out a nervous laugh. Hell no. Just wanted to know if she's really screwed. I smirked. Oh, she is. Ryan sighed. Damn. Well, guess I dodged a bullet. I shook my head. No, Ryan. You were the bullet. And I hung up. A week later, I was officially divorced. Rachel tried everything: begging, threats, even a half-assed attempt to claim I was emotionally abusive. None of it worked. The evidence was stacked against her. She lost everything. I found out through mutual friends that she was living in a cheap apartment on the other side of town, barely scraping by. No job, no money, no one left to manipulate. As for me, I was free. One night, Nick and I were sitting at a bar celebrating. He raised his glass. To new beginnings. I clinked mine against his. To never being that stupid again. I took a sip, letting the whiskey burn down my throat. Rachel was gone. And for the first time in a long time, I felt alive.